क्या आपने सोचा है कैसा लगता होगा अपने कंट्री को किसी इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म पे रिप्रेजेंट करना? कैसा लगता होगा अपने कंट्री के लिए गोल्ड मेडल जीत कर लाना? राइट। तो मैं बात कर रहा हूँ आज इंटरनेशनल ओलंपियाड्स की। ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स जो इंटरनेशनल ओलंपियाड में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं वो सिर्फ अपने कंट्री का ही मान सम्मान नहीं बढ़ाते, वो अपना और अपने फैमिली और अपने सोसाइटी का भी मान सम्मान बढ़ाते हैं। और इंटरनेशनल ओलंपियाड में पार्टिसिपेट करना एक लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस तो है ही, साथ ही एक फन एक्सपीरियंस भी है, क्योंकि इस पूरे प्रोसेस में गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया आपको स्पॉन्सर करती है, आपका इंटरनेशनल ट्रिप स्पॉन्सर करती है, और वहाँ जाकर आप एक एग्ज़ाम देते हो, मेडल जीत सकते हो, अपने कंट्री को रिप्रेजेंट करते हो, और साथ ही साथ आप काफ़ी सारे कल्चरल एक्टिविटीज़ और फन एक्टिविटीज़ में पार्टिसिपेट भी करते हो, और आपको काफ़ी कुछ सीखने को मिलता है। जिस कंट्री में आप जाते हो वहाँ के कल्चर के बारे में, वहाँ के लोगों के बारे में। इट इज़ एन इंटरनेशनल इवेंट. It not only helps you understanding the subject, but it has a lot of other benefits as well. So in this series today I have invited one of my senior, Mr. Valay Agrawal, who represented India in International Chemistry Olympiad in 2016, and he not only represented India but he also bagged gold medal. So today we will listen from Valay what was his experience and how he prepared for Chemistry Olympiad and how Olympiad helped him realizing his true passion. So if you want to know about Chemistry Olympiad, do check out the full video. Hello everyone, and I welcome you all to today's video. As I said earlier, today I have a special guest for you all, and he is no other than Mr. Valay Agrawal. So Valay, nice to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm also fine. So as I know you are working in a research lab, so how is it like to work from home in a research lab due to COVID-19?
Yeah, so my project is mainly computational, so it's not very different to work from home. Instead of using lab's computer, I'm using my own computer. The research has been essentially unhampered, although the communication takes a little more time as compared to offline, but still, things are going pretty smooth. Um, yeah, I've been able to churn out a good amount of work, and it's going smoothly.
Just for our viewers, an additional information, Valay has published two research papers. So isn't it great to publish two research papers at a young age of 22?
Well, yes, it is great. Yeah, it's an experience on its own, and it helps you to dive into research and experience it firsthand. The research papers and results are just a byproduct of whatever you study.
Yeah, it's great. So Valay, my next question is, how does it feel to represent your country at such a reputed international platform? Doesn't it gives you goosebumps? And how you felt when you won the gold medal?
Um, well, it is of course I'm very fortunate to um, represent my country, and I was fortunate to guidance have guidance from one of the from some of the best faculties in India, at Homiyava Center for Science Education, where which is the nodal center for Olympiad in India. And apart from that, my the support of parents and teachers, they all go a long way in making this possible. Um, yeah. Then well, regarding goosebumps, yes, of course, there is a lot of nervousness attached to it. Um, I mean, when I was in Georgia, yes, I was nervous, but now when I look back at it, it's a cherished memory, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty good to be fortunate enough to represent your country and have hold the flag at the stage where the world is seeing.
Yeah, I mean, many people generally have a misconception that Olympiad and Olympics are interconnected. I do feel like Olympiad is nothing but Olympics for we, like the students, isn't it?
Well,
Kind of.
yes, it is an international competition, and you know, even some of the, for example, when I was at the Olympiad, I think one of the ministers of that country referred to it as Olympics once or twice. But the respect, I would say, in communities is similar. So of course, not many people know about Olympiad, but those who know about Olympiad, respect it heavily. Respect it well, I would say. Yeah, let's put it that way.
Nice. So my next question is, which I have also felt that many students who prepare for IIT, they find maths and physics more interesting, like because they can do the things. And for chemistry, it's like more about a subject in which you have to learn things. So they don't like chemistry. But in your case, it's different, right? So when did you realize that chemistry is your passion, and how? What is your view on this?
Uh, well, regarding my passion for chemistry, I would say, it was maybe uh, 10th class, I would say. I mean, I always had you know, uh, an appetite for science, but it's just chemistry is one of the subjects that I started exploring first, and happened to stick with it. Regarding which of the I mean regarding how what the perception of chemistry and versus maths and physics is, of course my view will be biased towards chemistry, but as long as what I feel is, or rather how I study chemistry is that I understand a few principles, say thermodynamics, or say atomic structure, and then I try to build the principles ab initio. So this allows me to not have to this allows me to bypass the requirements of learning things, as in remembering things, and I can proceed smoothly with the work, with with my thoughts, from basic principles, which are much more rigorous as compared to uh, other rules which we may face exceptions and so on. So this allows me to have a better grip at the subject, and and at the same time I don't have to overcrowd my head with a lot of facts. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know much about math and physics because again I'm not a subject expert at it, but the reason I would say I like chemistry more is because I explored it before other subjects, and I just happened to stick with it.
Yeah, that's quite insightful, and I also agree with it. If you explore any subject, you will develop interest in that. That's quite
Mm.
true. And just for our viewers, an additional information, Valay not only did well in International Chemistry Olympiad, he also secured a very decent JE rank and joined IITB in mechanical department. But by the end of first year, due to his immense interest in chemistry, he switched over to chemistry. Right. So,
Yeah.
well, maybe you can add over that, like why you branch changed from mechanical to chemistry.
Well, uh, so I joined engineering with what you call as trend. So by the trends of the ranks in JE. Then I had an year to explore what is mechanical engineering, what is it that I want to do in future. I tried to generate interest in it, but I can only have so much interest. Um, I mean, I can only give so much importance to engineering when I have a lot of chemistry going on in my head. So that's why I decided to leave engineering for good. of course, I don't mean to say that, I don't find engineering useful. It's indispensable to everyone. But you know, I mean, I feel that uh, there are better people who can do engineering than me, and it would be better for me to do science instead of engineering. It's just a game of comparative advantage. Yeah, so that's why I did it. And regarding this decision, of course, there were a lot of what do you call that? Peer pressure that, why are you changing that and so on. So, but it's as long as you are okay with it, I think it should be fine. Parents, teachers, they all accept the fact slowly. But the only thing is that, if you um, choose a what do you call it? Choose a path. If you take the road less traveled by, you have to walk alone. So yeah, I mean, you can find people on the way, but in the end, you have to be sure that you can walk alone.
Yeah, quite insightful. So, Valay, my next question is, like, you represented India in International Chemistry Olympiad and you bagged gold medal, and we all know it. All this process is not easy. Like, thousands of students appear for NSEC, and then only few hundreds got to sit for InChO, and then of among them only top 35 are selected, and from that 30, best 4 are selected. So you have went through all this rigorous screening and you have excelled. So any tips for our viewers that how to prepare for everything, like when to start and what to do, any preparation tip?
Um, well, first of all, and I would say it's a prerequisite, is either you have a strong interest in chemistry, or um, you just you're just good at anything you do. So latter being less possible, but if it is, then it's great. The first requirement is that you have to have interest in chemistry. Uh, then second thing is, well, when to start? It's never too late to start, I would say. Because you know yeah, no, let me rephrase that. Well, when to start? It's it's uh, it's really up to you. If you feel that, you have a strong understanding of chemistry, you can uh, systematically start later also. But it's if you are planning to continue with chemistry after school, I would say that, whenever you start, it's fine. It's better if you start early, so that you can have a better traction on the path you're taking. So preparation tips. Well, here's what I think. So each of the states, they have a different requirement, and I mean, it's best if you prepare accordingly. So first stage, as many of you might know, is fairly straightforward. It's an objective paper. You have, you know, +3 -1, I think, and simple 80 questions or something like that. The syllabus is also very similar to high school level. So yeah, most of the preparation that you need for an first stage, that is national standard examination, is covered in your JE coaching or NEET coaching. The thing is, if you're doing NEET, you might need an extra mathematical training in chemistry, because a lot of chemistry that is discussed at Olympiad level involves a good understanding of mathematical tricks. So yeah, then but I would say that the overlap between Olympiad and JE ends at first stage. Primary reason is because from second stage onwards, it's always subjective. It's never objective. And once it comes to subjective, you need to know how to write answers. Arriving at answer is a different thing, but you should also know how to write answers. So that is a training that you might not have, and that you have to. That is, I mean, which is absolutely critical for you to have, because the final answer carries a lesser weightage as compared to the process, or as compared to showing your thought process. So yeah, you know. Uh, what I would suggest is, maybe look at some of the questions that have appeared. Of course, the question won't be repeated, but you'll get a feel of what what is the what is your what is expected from you to write, in terms of what you write, in terms of how you think about problems. Another important aspect is why was the problem asked? What is the importance of the problem? For example, if I give you a problem on say combustion of fuel. Okay, so why is studying combustion so important? Okay, so I mean, all these questions, apart from what is the chemistry of it, it's very important to understand and appreciate why was the question asked. So which is a much richer experience as compared to the question itself. Then well, that is the second stage. The third stage is not done in exam centers. It is done at home yoga center, where you go and live there for 10 to 15 days. You'll have rigorous lectures and practical labs, and your final selection also depends on your performance in theory exams as well as practical exams. So um, if you want to further your chances at Olympiad, it is strongly recommended that you have some what do you call for lab experience, because I've seen people who perform, or rather outperform everyone in theory by far, but they uh, being unskilled at experiments, they often fall short. uh, I've, apart from being a participant, I've also been on the other side of the table as an examiner in the Olympiads, and I've seen how people tend to freak out when things don't go right, which is something that you need. That is one skill that you need in labs, and it cannot come from reading books. It has to come from experimenting, and it has to come from standing in the lab. So yeah, that camp is in itself one of the best experiences of the Olympiad. You get a extremely decorated faculty to teach you, and the peer group is also exceptional, with whom you interact and live with, say, 10 or 15 days. So that in itself is an experience of its own. Then once you make it to the team, you have so usually the team selection happens 2 months before the final Olympiad, and then you have a around 15 to 20-day extensive and intensive training program, which is called pre-departure training. So there you have lectures over lectures and labs over labs. You're not only taught the subject, you're also taught how to build a stamina to sit in a 5-hour exam, or to stand in a 5-hour practical test. You are taught to recover things in experiment if something goes bad, um, how to think about questions, how to think about chemistry, um, why should, why is this topic important, not from the perspective of Olympiad, but from the perspective of science. And so for example, why is thermodynamics important? I mean, you can sure use it to form questions and solve questions, but what next? So of course, because science is not developed for JE, it's developed for people, and it's developed for humanity. So why are we doing this? So these questions, they are, answered to some extent in the training camps, and if you want, the faculties there are more than willing to, discuss this further. So yeah, then after that camp, which is in that camp, there is no, selection as such. The only 4 people who are selected are invited there, and then once that selection is done, then you go to the host country with usually 2 team leaders and 2 scientific observers. The numbers may vary from each year, but the team size is fixed. It's 4, and usually you go with 1 or 2 faculty and 1 or 2 scientific observers. There, you you don't have any lectures or any sort. You have one practical, sort of test, not test, rather a demo, to get you familiarized with some of the equipments you might be using, because the standardized equipments might be different. For example, uh, you might use, pipette gun to use pipette out things. You might use a bulb to pipette out things, and so on. So every, because like in some countries the standard of using might be different. Then methods of using syringe size, flask size, burettes are another important part. So burette operations might be different. So there is one, what you call a test run for labs, so that you can get familiar with it. But apart from that, it's so if it's a 10-day program, so it's usually 7 days of fun, 2 days of tests, and 1 day of closing ceremony. So yeah, and again, it's a it's a very enriching experience, and it's an opportunity for uh, building better collaborations. And collaborations might be a, uh, might be a stretch, but just building friendships, let's say, from people around the world, get to know their culture, their method of education, if you're interested, or any other, informal ideas that you want to exchange, and so on. So yeah, that is and uh, so from stage 3 onwards, where practical part comes in, I know that, um people drop out from, I mean, don't drop out, but take up dummy schools, so that they don't have to go to their schools and just focus on coaching and theory itself. But in Olympiad, if you want to succeed, you need a lot of lab experience. So if it is possible, then you should definitely try for some lab experience. One way is obviously through a regular school, which provides a decent amount of experimental exposure, and most of the schools are cooperative enough. If you ask them that, that you are selected for third stage and you want to experiment more, they might allow. So yeah, experiments are an important part. They contribute 40% to your overall score, which is definitely not a small percentage. So yeah, experiments become a very important part in your overall score, and you cannot undermine the preparation time required, or the skill required. So yeah, that is about it for the preparation tips.
Thank you, Ale. That was very insightful, and I must say, I also felt nostalgic when you mentioned that people do well in theory part and they mess up in experimental part, because I was also not experienced doing practical prior to OCSC, so that was quite insightful, I must say. So now, Ale, my final question is: what was your motivation for Chemistry Olympiad, and how can one get benefited from Chemistry Olympiad? What after Chemistry Olympiad, to be more precise?
Yeah. For Olympiad, well, everyone has that motivation of competitiveness, which was also in the back of my mind when I started preparing for Olympiad. But once you start enjoying the chemistry, the competition itself does not matter that much. What's what gets higher on your priority is to explore chemistry further and discuss it with other people. um, and well, of course, representing the nation and holding the flag, it's that is another, you know that's a another experience in itself, and which I was fortunate enough to have, and also waited for it for quite some time. um yeah. Then, well, what to gain from Olympiad? One is, of course, you know to explore chemistry. So, I mean, Chemistry Olympiad offers you an opportunity to explore chemistry like no other event. Then, with students from different country who might have been taught same concepts in a different fashion, or different ideas within the same concepts, and so on. So that discussion is definitely a very fruitful and actually a very insightful discussion if you can have one. Then, of course, if you do participate in the Olympiad, it's a very it's an impressive point in your profile. You know, it may automatically stands you out from what you call as the average. And it shows that you you do know, well, you at least you did know chemistry in high school. um, and if you do continue your chemistry, I mean, many people after going to the Olympiads, at least in India, switch to engineering, which kind of reduces the importance of the Olympiad in their further life. But if you do continue in chemistry, it's a big boost that shows you have been consistent and you have excelled in chemistry from quite from early days, I would say. So yeah, that's a big plus point in your profile. um, then there are some sort of rumors that uh, foreign universities take Olympiad students directly, which is not true. Um, you do have to go through their process, their admission process. It does give you an edge, which is, of course, undeniably true. But there is no such thing as a university directly offering you admission on the basis of Olympiad. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I was also under that impression, which I got cleared out. But just for everyone who might be watching this, then what else after Olympiad? Well, the chemistry itself is it's an extremely important, and I would say the most important part of the Olympiad. The depth in which you study and experiment the chemistry, because for many of you, high school is the only time you might ever go into a chemistry lab. So yeah, so to to explore chemistry in a lab at highest level, uh, I mean till high school, is another part of the experiments of the Olympiad. Another thing that Olympiad teaches you is how to recover from things. Okay, so in experiments, a lot of time, a lot of things go bad, and it's often the people who endure and who try to recover come out on top. That come out on top, and people who are people who sort of give up that, oh, the experiment is ruined. That is usually they usually keep sinking. So yeah, it teaches you perseverance, it teaches you endurance, and makes you and of course makes you better chemists. Well, in India, uh, there are a lot of opportunity at the Homeopa Center. So if you do build good relations there are a lot of opportunity for you to participate in Olympiad from the other side of the table, as well as participate in a lot of other chemical education programs, other projects that are available. Because once you go through Olympiad, you know people at HBCSC quite well. Um, so that it sort of becomes another institution for you to be a part of, apart from whatever college you are studying at. For example, me, I've been associated with Homeopa Center for like I think 7 years now, and I've been visiting. I mean, I do visit, say at least. I did a project there, so I visited for like 3 or 4 holidays. So it's like first year winters, first year summer, second year winter, second year summer, third year winters, third year summers. So yeah, I mean, I've been in constant touch with Homeopa Center. It allows me to I've churned out a couple of projects there. I've worked in Olympiad, great, uh, experimentation. I've worked with some of the standardization of experiments and all sorts of things. So yeah. So that is one part of Olympiad. Internationally, Olympiad is well recognized. Of course, of over 80 countries participate in it, and as a result, it's almost everywhere. It's the if you do excellent Olympiads, you are recognized instantaneously anywhere. Um, and well, yeah, that is about it. Of course, there are some hidden advantages of uh, you being sort of you get a lot of you might get a lot of popularity in your immediate social environment, which might open up another other opportunities for you. But that is that is sort of with every well-known competition. So I mean, if you are performing well, then of course opportunities open up for you. But
Thanks a lot, Valay, for giving us your valuable time. Before we end this, I would request you to share some motivational, like take-home message for our viewers.
uh, well, okay, motivation. Okay, so I've never been very strong on the motivation part, but I'll tell you what guides me. So it's simply, I mean, for me, it's always been let's start and see where it goes. So I sort of, of course, you need to have a goal in mind, but once you are okay with the fact that you might not be able to achieve it, and you start working, it it sort of reduces a lot of tension for me, and it becomes the path itself becomes enjoyable rather than the destination. So yeah, for me, what motivates me is the fun of doing things rather than the anticipation of the result. And which is, I mean, what I would suggest to everyone. Sometimes people tend to overthink about the end result, um, and then you might, if and as what you call as Murphy's law, that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So I tend not to overthink and just go with what's going on and have fun along the way. Of course, it may not be the strategy you might want to use. Everyone has their own you know source of motivation. I'm just sharing mine, of course. So of course, I'm not a motivational speaker. Neither do I know human what motivates a person, but I've told you what motivates me. I hope it helps.
Yeah, your story itself and you yourself as a person is quite a big source of motivation. At least for me, you are, I must say. You motivated me a lot. And what you said is all true that one should never think of the final result, rather, one should enjoy the journey. Thank you, Alep. Thanks once again for your time. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks.